bringing it down to more of a individual micro scale. So your book is called This Is Strategy. How, in your mind, do the tenets of that book apply to people on an individual level?
Yeah. So when you were gracious enough to invite me on, I thought really hard about, do I belong on a conversation like
Thank
this?
you.
And in fact, strategy isn't just for Microsoft and Apple. Strategy is a philosophy of becoming. One of my favorite sentences in the book is this: one day soon, the person you are hoping to become is going to meet the person you are. How's that meeting going to go? Because that meeting could go really well. You could say, yeah, I invested 4 years ago to be where I am now, and I'm glad we met. Thank you. But it also could be a cause for heartbreak. And a lot of the challenges of modern mental health is about that heartbreak, of dreams not met, of finding ourselves in a bind, feeling trapped. Well, that's all strategy. Strategy is, what will I do today to work with the systems that are out there so that tomorrow and the tomorrow after that and the tomorrow after that, I'm going to build a life where I want to live. And where we get trapped is we do something today in the short run because it's an emergency, because I had no choices, because I'm busy or tired. And then we have to live with it tomorrow. And what I'm trying to cover in the book is to say all of us have a strategy, whether we name it or not. Good strategies always outperform in the long run strategies that are just intuitive. We're just winging it. And, a trivial example, if you need to get to a meeting in rural Georgia and there's only one flight out of one airport and four flights out of the other airport, it's a good strategy to go to the airport that has more connecting flights. Because if one of them goes wrong, you'll still be fine, right? That if your flight leaves at 2 p.m., getting to the airport at 11, because they have free Wi-Fi, instead of sitting in your office, which also has free Wi-Fi, and waiting until the last minute, one strategy is a better strategy. It gives you more resilience. But then this gets much bigger than making an airplane. It's, well, did the system persuade me to live a life in debt? Or do I have the wherewithal to live a life in surplus? Because if I spend the first 3 years of my life spending less money, the rest of my life I'll be earning interest. Whereas if I spend the first 3 years of my life as an adult spending money, I'll be in credit card debt forever. That's what the credit card company wants, but it might not be what you want.
How do we get aware of the strategies we might want to employ, in daily life, not only just for ourselves, but also in contribution to others?
So it's two simple questions to get us started. Who's it for and what's it for? That's it. Who's it for and what's it for? So I ran into someone the other day who didn't know them. They were just talking in the parking lot. And they said the car payments on their car were finally paid off 36 months later, which means that tomorrow they get to buy a new car. No, that's not what it means, right? But if you need to buy a new car to impress your neighbors or your girlfriend or your ex who doesn't even know you bought a new car, then please do. But you should know that's why you bought a new car, not because your old car is broken. Who's it for and what's it for? This time I'm going to spend, right? The 3 hours I'm going to spend tonight watching television instead of going for a walk. Who's it for? What's it for? Who benefits if I stay home and watch television and eat Ben and Jerry's? Who benefits if I go for a walk? And when we keep coming back to who's it for and what's it for, what we discover is that high school is still in charge in many of our brains. That what we're trying to do in many of our decisions is please that person who bullied us when we were 17. Or somehow undo that feeling of isolation. And if it's getting you what you want, please do. But if it's not getting what you want, let's name it. And once you name it, I bet you're aware enough to do something about it.
Who's it for? What's it for? That isn't, you're not saying that based on that you have a preconceived idea of what they should do. They just need to be aware of what is there.
Yeah.
And that will help.
Right. So
them.
I don't use Twitter. I could have used Twitter right at the beginning because I knew about it. That's what I do. And I said to myself, I could probably have a lot of Twitter followers.
Sure.
But if I was going to do that, I'd have to spend less time doing something else. So I'd become a slightly worse blogger in order to become a much better Twitter user. Who's it for? What's it for? Who benefits if I have 2 million Twitter followers, right? People who are spending a lot of time on TikTok, they will tell you, well, I'm doing this because one day I'm going to have 79 million followers. And I'm like, well, who else has 79 million followers? And when they have 79 million followers, does it get them what they want? Let's be clear. You're doing this because you like the feeling of winning, possibly winning the lottery, not because it's a good strategy. And if you could just name it, then great, go buy a lottery ticket. Just make sure you can afford it.
So that comes down to being real with yourself, recognizing the factors that are at play, which requires self-reflection of some capacity. Yeah. For you, it sounds like that's often
right.
Writing.
Right. Well, part of it is it's worth making it into a book because books don't have to be private. You can find 3 other people, and now it's not self-reflection. Now it's peer reflection. And, this is the secret of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is the secret of so many institutions that make us better, is you can't lie to other people as easily as you can lie to yourself. So who are the 3 people that you're going to meet with once a week and tell them the truth about your promises and your efforts? So it's not a substitute for professional mental health care, but it is an excellent way to think about your strategy.
You have 12 slogans in your book, or what you have available for us podcasters to look at. One of the slogans is networks can be created. And I think that's absolutely true, but it's something that a lot of people struggle with. Do you have any advice for people that struggle with that?
So we get back to the lifeguard thing.
Mm-hmm.
Years and years ago, I built one of the first internet companies, and AOL was one of our biggest clients. AOL invited 50 of the people who were making content to a conference, and their goal was to tell the 50 of us what they were going to do next and persuade us to go along with it. But one guy, Tom, decided that he could do something of service for a dozen of the other people who were there. So he rented a slightly bigger hotel room, and he invited us all over at 6 o'clock to meet each other. And we spent the next 2 hours comparing our contracts with AOL. How could we do better at this? How could we do better at this? And all 12 of us got this huge benefit out of being connected, having a secret cartel, right? And I've been grateful to Tom ever since. But Tom got more out of it than any of us. So it's scary, back to high school, scary to say, I have a special lunch table, will you want to join us? But when you're doing it for generous reasons and you do it very small, one little tiny step at a time, it's totally doable, right? And it can be something as simple as, I saw a photographer do a brave thing about 8 years ago, maybe more. And I sent her a note and I said, that was great. And I didn't know who this person was. I was just being encouraging. Well, it turns out we went to summer camp together. Oh. And we hit it off again. But the point is, it didn't cost me anything to send them that note. And we can start weaving this together without the fear of rejection because we're doing it in the small for the right reasons.
Right. In that lunch table kind of metaphor at high school, you are sort of trained to not invite people to your table, but see the table that you want to be at. And yes, the stakes for getting to that table feel unrealistically high. And you're saying that you don't have to do that. You can create a table and say, hey, come join me at my table for authentic reasons.
Yeah, exactly. We all get to make our own tables. That's why we're not in high school anymore.
Yeah. I think that's really valuable, especially to people with, I work with a lot of people with social anxiety, and it is so much of that fear of, where can I get into this thing versus invite people. You can be that one, and you get more out of it even than maybe the other people.
Yeah. I mean, again, empathy is valuable, but I can't speak for someone who has real social anxiety. Sure. I am actually sort of shy most of the time. But if you love dogs, Go put 5 flyers in 5 mailboxes. I walk dogs every afternoon for free. Give me a call if you're interested. If no one calls, no one knows it was you. You have lost nothing. If someone calls, now you have a new dog to walk with, and maybe you're going to get to know your neighbor because you did something useful for them. And the woman in my neighborhood who walks 20 dogs a day, and she has people who are rooting for her because she is of service.
Brilliant. Yeah. There's some stuff that will percolate from this for me too, so appreciate that. There's a quote from your upcoming book. You said we mistakenly spend time figuring out how to win the game we're in instead of choosing which game to play in the first place. Can you break that down a little bit for us?
Okay, so I'm a game designer off and on, but I'm not talking about board games or Wordle. I'm talking about a game is anything with players, rules, and outcomes. And so when 3 lanes are merging to 1 lane and there's a traffic jam, that's a game. Who are you going to let in front of you? Who's going to let you in front? And you can play that game better or worse. You can be a jerk at it. You can come out fine. And so work is a game, and politics is a game, and the cafeteria is a game. Okay. So one of the things that Western culture has trained us to do is not quit. Another thing it's trained us to do is to insist that we could do it. So they just did a survey in the United Kingdom, and 25% of the adults who answered the survey, including senior citizens, said that if they trained really hard for the next 4 years, they could make the Olympic team. This is absurd, right? But 25%. So that's supposed to be a good thing, right? Well, I don't think you should play games you can't win if your goal is to win. Right? You should play games you can't win if just to be fun. But if your goal is to win, and it's very clear you can't win, play a different game. And so what we see is a society that pushes you to play the game it says you should play, and to play it not to win. But that's not a happy thing. So play a different game. And this goes back to which group are you organizing? If the game is who is the most traditionally beautiful person at the senior prom, you know before you start that you're not going to win that game. So don't go into debt to buy a dress or a tuxedo that is going to have you come in 20th place. Play a different game, right? You can go to the prom with your circle of people and have the best time ever because all of you have opted out of a game you can't win. And a lot of tension and stress comes from our belief that we need to play a game even though we are pretty confident we're not going to win it.
What are some games that we are currently playing that we are going to lose that you think people should play a different game instead?
Well, I think the biggest, most common one is going into debt to buy stuff.
Yeah.
That's a game. You have a limited number of resources. You can't buy everything. You can't have a yacht bigger than Jeff Bezos' yacht, right? So we've got all of these people who are hooked on what can I buy and how can I demonstrate that I have status because of what I bought. There are games of maintaining the status quo because we don't have the guts to admit that maybe the status quo should change. So there's something we want to do. It turns out many lawyers and dentists in the United States are unhappy in their careers. Now, it would seem to me you have 2 good options. One, figure out how to have a narrative about your career that makes you happy with it. Or 2, stop doing it. But there's so much pressure to say, well, I went to dental school and I'm in dental debt, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but that's a gift from your former self. You don't have to accept it. You can say, thanks, I'm good. You can keep that gift. And so sunk costs get us paralyzed. And we try to justify our unhappiness instead of realizing we could take a deep breath, move something away, and go back to being generative and being generous.